This session is on control flow statements. Normally, the program control is going to be sequential, like it is going to execute the first line in the program, followed by second line, followed by third line. But these control flow statements, when used in the program, is going to change the flow of control. So when I say change the flow of control, basically some portion of the code may be executed, some portion may not be executed depending on a condition. Some portion may be repeatedly executing for a multiple times. So these type of things happens when you use this control flow statements. So there are three types of control flow statements which we are going to discuss here. First one is the conditional statements, second one looping statements, third one is the branching statements. So let's start with the conditional statements. So in conditional statements, we have if else, and switch case. To start with if a condition, as you see here, if and then braces, inside the braces you will have the condition. So this condition can be a boolean, this condition has to result in a boolean value. So you can put a relational expression here like a greater than b, like that, which ends up in a boolean value, or you can directly use a boolean variable here. So the condition should evaluate to a boolean value. So if the condition is going to be true, then only the statement 1 and 2 is going to be executed in this scenario. So if the condition is going to be false, it is not going to execute the statement 1 and 2, and it is going to be coming out after that loop, after that block here, which is represented with the curly braces. So in this case, what is going to happen is, if a condition is true, then statement 1 and 2 is going to get executed. If not, statement 3 and 4 is going to get executed if the condition is going to evaluate to false. So there can be other way, like where you can check in this scenario, if the condition 1 is true, statement 1 is going to get executed. Else, we are checking if condition 2 is true, then statement 2 and 3 is going to get executed. If not, statement 4 is going to get executed. So in this scenario, what is going to happen if the condition 1 is true, it is going to execute the condition 1, the statement 1, and then it is going to come to the place after the statement 4. That means it is going to skip the whole block and come to the code which is next to the curly braces after statement 4. So let's do an example here. Let's take like a simple example. So in order to get a license, the user should be having an age of 18 or more, and he should have also passed the driver test. So we'll take two variables here, age variable and the past driver test variable. I'm giving some initial values for the age variable. Age is going to be 10 here and past driver test is going to be false. So in this scenario, as you know, he will not be able to get a license because he's not even eligible for getting a license because the age is 10, right? So we'll write a simple program to see how this is going to work. So this is a snippet of code which says if age is greater than or equal to 18. So which is a condition here, and this is going to evaluate into true or false. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, system.out.println eligible for getting a license means if he's greater than or equal to 18, then that block which is surrounded by the curly braces is going to get executed. If not, the else block is going to get executed, which is going to say not eligible for getting a license. So the if block is going to be having the curly braces starting from age greater than or equal to 18. That curly braces is going to end in near the else actually. So that is the else corresponding for that if block. So here we are saying if age is greater than or equal to 18, he is going to be eligible for getting a license. That will be printed. For this input age is equal to 10, what is going to happen is it is going to check 10 greater than or equal to 18, which is a false. When it is false, it is going to execute the else block here. What is there in the else block is it is going to print not eligible for getting a license. So this code is going to evaluate, and out, if you run this code, it is going to give you the output of not eligible for getting the license. So let's try to change this variable age equal to 20. So I change the variable age is equal to 20. So now if I run through this snippet of code for this input, what is going to happen is 20 is greater than or equal to 18. So it is not going to go to the else block. It is going to go inside the if block because the condition is going to be true. So now what is going to happen is it is going to print eligible for getting a license because the condition is true, and it is going to evaluate the if block here. So Once it prints the eligible for getting a license, it is the next code is to check for passed driver test. So it is checking if passed driver test. As you know, in the from the input, the passed driver test is false in this case. Since it is false, it is not going to execute that if block, which is containing system.out.println can get license. So in this scenario, what is going to get printed is eligible for getting license. Let's change the input variable passed driver test into true. Now what is going to happen is age is greater than or equal to 18 is going to be true. So you're going to print eligible for, it is going to go into the if block and it is going to execute eligible for getting a license. Second thing is if passed driver test, this condition is also true for this input, and so it is going to also print can get license. Okay, that's about if else. We will see more examples in the next session when we try to do it with Eclipse. But as such, I hope that clears the if else part. Next is the switch case, which is also a conditional statement. So based on a condition, a particular section of the code is going to get executed or not. That's basically the conditional statement. So switch basically can work with any different data types like byte, short, character, int, and also it can work with string as well as enum. We'll talk about enum and string later. Just for you to understand, like till Java 1.6, switch case only supports byte, short, character, and integer primitive data types. From Java 7, it started supporting the string data type and enum. So let's see a snippet of code to explain the switch case. So this snippet of code takes the month as the input value. So the variable month is going to have the month number. So when you have the month number as 4, this program is going to output April. So that is the expectation. So as you see in the program, what is happening is I assign integer month is equal to 4. So month is going to take a value of 4 here. String month name is equal to empty. So the empty is, I mean, we are just having a empty string assigned to month name because I'm just giving an initialization value for the month name, and then switch of month. So basically, depending on the month's value, I'm going to switch between these cases. That is the meaning of switch of month here. And unlike the if else condition, you don't put month greater than 5, less than 5. You don't use any kind of expressions here. It is just going to match with the value here, the direct value. So in this case, what is going to happen is it is going to evaluate case 1. That means if month is equal to 1. If month equal to 1, then the month name is assigned to January and then followed by a semicolon, and then there is a break statement after this. Okay, so the meaning of break is it is going to come out of the block it is present in. So in this case, the block is a switch block and it is going to come out of the switch block when you have a break in it. We'll see why we need to have a break and what will happen if you don't put a break there. So each case statement should have a break in it actually. So as you see here, case 2 month name equal to February, case 3 month name equal to March, and then I have a break nearby. So in this case, what is going to happen, since we have the month as 4, the month name, it is not going to execute case 1, it is not going to execute case 2 and case 3, and it is going to execute case 4. The moment it executes case 4 and assigns month name equal to April, there is no need of executing the remaining portion of the code or even comparing the remaining portion of the code. So what we can do is this we are putting a break there. So what will happen is it is going to stop there. It's going to assign month name is equal to April there, and then it is going to break there. And once it executes the break statement, it is going to the program execution is going to come out of that curly braces that it presents in. So and then we are printing out the month name here. So April will be printed when you put month equal to 4. So what is case switch case is doing is just going to match the actual value whatever you are giving. If there is a case present there, it is going to directly go to that case and executes the statements that is present in the case. So here we are having month is equal to 4, and since month is equal to 4, this case evaluation is going to happen and it is going to turn out to be April. Let's say if the month is equal to 13 here, we are giving some 13 value in the variable. What is going to happen is this 13 value switch of month is not going to match with any of these cases here because we have just cases for 1 to 12. We don't have a case for 13. So if you specify any value that is not matching with any of the cases, then if you have a default block, that will get executed. So there is a case for default case. That means none of these things are matching, so it is going to execute the default case. So the default case is going to assign the month name as invalid month here. So and then when you print this, it is going to get invalid month printed. So any value outside of these cases is going to get into the default case, and it is going to print whatever you have specified in the default condition. Okay, let's see now what will be the effect if you don't use a break. So same code, but if you notice, month name is equal to April. After that, I didn't have a break, and also for the May month, I didn't have a break, but for June, I have a break. Here what is going to happen is it is going to match with the case 4 as usual. Case 1 is, I mean, because month is equal to 4, so it is not going to match with 1, 2 and 3, and it is going to match with the case 4. So it is going to assign month name is equal to April. But it is not going to come out of that switch block because we didn't have a break statement. What it's going to do is it is going to execute the remaining cases. It is going to flow through the remaining cases. That means what is going to happen is month name is equal to May will be executed, month name is equal to June will be executed, and since month name equal to June is having a break, it is going to break it there. So the output you will get here is June, because it started executing from April, but since you don't have a break, it is not coming out of the loop. It is executing the remaining statements that is present in the switch block, but it stops with June because the June statement was having a break. If you don't have a break in the June, it is going to go through and it is going to say month name equal to July. And if July is also not going to have a break, it is going to fall through like that. So that is about switch case statement. Let's learn about ternary operator. So ternary operator is like where it's just like a if else condition. It's an alternative for if else condition. It's a shorter form, I could say. So we don't want to use this for very complex expressions. Very simple expressions, instead of using if else, it is going to be much easier to use. So here, if we again do the same thing like the condition, which is going to evaluate into true or false, and then expression 1 will be evaluated if condition is true, and expression 2 will be evaluated if the condition is false. So anything after question mark is executed when the condition is going to be true. Anything after colon will be executed if the condition is going to be false. Let's see an example here. Let's take a variable number is equal to 23, and system.out.println, what we are doing, num percentage 2 equal to 0. What is num percentage 2? Num is 23, as you know. Percentage 2 is going to be dividing the number by 2 and getting the remainder of it. So when you divide number by 2, number 23 by 2, you are going to get a remainder of 1 here. So 1 is compared against 0 here. 1 equal to 0. 1 is not equal to 0, so it is going to be false here. Since the condition is false, what's going to happen is it's going to basically execute the expression after the colon. Okay. Instead of executing the expression after question mark, it is going to execute after colon because the condition is going to be false here. Suppose if you put in number is equal to 24, and if you try to execute the same code, then it is going to result in even number. It is going to print even number. In this case, it is going to print odd number. Okay, let's see a little bit complex example using the ternary operator. I would advise to go with if else instead of using this ternary operator for this type of problems. Actually, like if you want to go beyond one more condition, it is better to use if else. So here what it's doing is basically we are calculating the percentage in the grade of the student. Percentage is equal to 26, and if you see for the input value percentage is 26, how we are going to calculate the grade is string grade is equal to, I check percentage greater than or equal to 60, which is the condition, and if this condition is true, it is going to execute the one that is following the question mark, which is going to result in first class. If the condition is going to be false, it is going to execute the code that is present after the colon. So here when I say the code after the colon, it is again another ternary condition which is going to check percentage is greater than or equal to 35. If it is true, then it is going to execute second class, or it is going to execute no grade. So in the colon we are having one more ternary condition, ternary operator condition that is existing here. So in this scenario, what is going to happen is for this input 26, 26 is not greater than or equal to 60, so it is going to the else block, which is after the colon. After the colon, we are having another ternary operator expression where we are saying percentage greater than or equal to 35, which is also false. So in this case, it is going to print the one that is following the colon, which is going to print no grade. Let's change the input. If the input is 56, what is going to happen? Again, 56 is not greater than or equal to 60. So it is going to go to the else block, which is after colon. But 56 is greater than or equal to 35. So it is going to go to the if block, which is, the one that is after the question mark. So it is going to print second class in this scenario. If you make your percentages equal to 76, then it's going to basically, the first condition itself is true. So it is going to print first class. It is going to assign first class to the grade and it is going to get printed. It is not going to execute the else part. So that's about the ternary operator. Let's jump into the looping statements. So we saw about conditional statements. So conditional statements are just, checking for a condition, and if that condition is true, you are executing a portion of the code. If it is false, you are executing another portion of the code, or you may not execute anything if you don't have else block. So basically that it is executed only one time in case of a conditional statement, whether you execute or not. That is the way it is handled in the conditional statement. Whether it can be if else, or it can be a switch case, or it can be a ternary operator. In all these scenarios, that is the way it works. Now coming to looping statements, here a particular looping statement means it is helping you to repeat the same operation multiple number of times based on a condition. So if I want to take an example, if I wanted to do the same operation for a number of times, okay, I don't need to write the code number of times. Let's say we want to print 1 to 100. We don't need to write a code like system.out.println 1, system.out.println 2, and repeat the same code till 100. Actually, there should be an easy way to do things. That is where the looping statement is helping us here. So let's take an example to print number 1 to 5. Okay, so I'm assigning a variable called count is equal to 1 here, and then if you see, the syntax is going to be very similar like if, but instead of if, here it is going to be while, and you have a while and then followed by a braces, and then there is a condition which is going to evaluate into true or false. It's the same like if, but the only difference is if is replaced with while here. Okay, now in count is equal to, here count is equal to 1, count less than or equal to 5 means 1 less than or equal to 5. So here the only difference between if and while here is if will be executing only one times this block of code which is in the curly braces, but while will execute this block of code repeatedly till this count less than or equal to 5 condition becomes false. Okay, till it is true it is going to get executed, and once it becomes false it is going to come out of that curly braces. Okay, so this program, what it is doing is, we are having count is equal to 1, 1 less than or equal to 5. Since the condition is true, it is going to print 1, and after that it is going to increment the count variable to 2. Once it increments to 2, it is not going to come out of that curly braces. It is going to check it again, 2 less than or equal to 5, and then do this operation continuously till that condition becomes false. So we have three parts in this while block. So we have initialization, we have a variable that we are initializing here, and we are checking condition here, and then finally we are also, once the condition is true, that operation within the curly braces is going to get executed. Okay, and then the count plus plus is the increment and decrementer value. If you don't have this count plus plus, then this condition will be count less than or equal to 5 will always remain true. So this is going to form an infinite loop, because you will never fail this loop and count will always print 1 1 1 1 like that. Since you are not incrementing the or decrementing the count here. So to better explain this, iteration 0, that means before the iteration we are having count is equal to 1, and once we go into iteration is how many times the while loop is getting executed here. Iteration 1, what we are doing here is we are checking while 1 less than or equal to 5. Since the condition is true, we are printing 1, and we are incrementing the count to 2. Count plus plus is nothing but count is equal to count plus 1. We are just adding 1 to the count variable. So now if you see count is equal to 2, we check again the second iteration, 2 less than or equal to 5. Since that is also true, we are printing 2, and then we increment to 3. Same thing with the third iteration, where we are checking 3 less than or equal to 5, which is true. So we are printing 3, and then we are going with the fourth iteration, printing 4, and then we are going with the fifth iteration, printing 5, and we are going to the sixth iteration, but that time 6 less than or equal to 5 is a false. So I don't execute the block of code, I come out of that code. So that's how the while loop executes. So this is a code for while loop. We have variations for looping statements. You can use while, do while, or for. You can use either of them. But the most preferred one is for, because most programmers use for when they do coding. Um, some places we use while as well as do while. It's a matter of choice which one to use, but again depends. Most of the scenario you will be using for only, but wherever you are using for, you can also use while. There is no problem with that. Do while, you can also use do while, which is also going to do the same thing, but there is one slight difference between while and do while, or I would say for and do while. Let's see that. So first we'll understand how to make do while statement. For do while, all that you need to do is bring the while into the um, replace the while statement with the do, and then bring that while condition after that curly braces. Remember, I'm putting a semicolon after the while here. That's because where you have to put every statement with semicolon unless it is a block. So here while is ending here, so there's no block starting here, so I'm putting a semicolon here. So the do while here, if you see, the difference between while and do is while will check for a condition, and if the condition is true, it is going to execute the block of code. But do while, it is first going to execute the block of code and then check for a condition. So that is the only difference between while and do while. Most of the scenario it is going to be same results actually. In this case, if you look at it, count is equal to 1, it is going to do the block. So when it's doing the block, it is going to print 1, it is going to make the count is equal to 2, and then 2 less than or equal to 5 is evaluated. So it is going to execute 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when the count becomes 6, 6 less than or equal to 5 is false, so it is going to come out of the do block. So do until you meet this condition. So that's the concept of do while. It's very similar to while. So it is, you can use while or do while. It's up to your preference. But do while will at least execute the block once. Okay, whereas while need not execute the block once. Say let's assume in the while case, if the count is equal to 6, I assign count is equal to 6 in the first time itself. What will happen there? Do while will still print 6 and it makes 7, and 7 less than or equal to 5 is checked and it is not true, so it is going to come out. If I do the same thing with the while, what is going to happen is if the count is equal to 6, while count less than or equal to 5 will be first evaluated. That means while 6 is less than or equal to 5 is going to be evaluated. That itself is false, so nothing will be printed in case of while. But in case of do while, one time at least the 6 will be printed. Whereas in while, it will not be printing at all, because it is first checking the condition. Only if the condition is true, it is going to execute the block. Whereas do while, it is going to execute the block and then only it is going to check for the condition, which makes it to print at least, which makes it to execute the block of code at least once. So wherever in situations that you demand that that at least one time the block has to be executed, there you go for do while. A typical scenario what I would relate is like, let's say if you are presenting a menu, take an example of an ATM where it is giving you a menu for the user. Hey, whether you want to do a deposit, withdrawal, or exit, basically a balance transfer and then exit. So we are given option 1 deposit, 2 withdrawal, 3 balance transfer, 4 exit. So at least we should present the menu only at least one time, and based on the user choice, if he gives 4, then I'm going to exit the loop. If I don't give 4, then I'm going to keep on going to ask the user what type of transaction you want to perform. So that's a typical case of a do while. Inside the do, you will print that 3 options, 4 options basically, and ask the user input which option you want, and you will be repeating these options until the user presses 4. So while user choice is not equal to 4, you are going to do this loop again and again. For is again another alternative of it. So in when I'm doing for, what I have to do is just replace your do with, remove all your assignment statement. You don't need to have count is equal to 1, you can take it out. You can also remove count plus plus. All this will be done in one statement like this. So you have the initialization, you have the condition check, and also you have the increment decrement all done in one statement. So it is much flexible to use, but it's very similar how while executes. So in the while, you first initialization is done. Here also first initialization will be done only once. So first it executes int count equal to 1, then it checks whether the count is less than or equal to 5. If the condition is true, it is going to execute the block of code. Here the block of code is system.out.println. So 1 is printed. And then now it is going to execute the third portion of the code, which is count plus plus. So what happens, count was 1, now count becomes 2 here. And once it does the increment decrement, it is going to check for the condition. So and then execute the block if the condition is true. So this will be done again and again. So first step, count for initialization will be done only once, and then the condition check is done, execute the block. Then all the time it is going to do increment decrement, check the condition, execute the block. Increment decrement, check the condition, execute the block. Increment decrement, check the condition. If the condition is false, you are going to come out of the block. So that is about the for loop. So I'm just putting together all these three things in one place so you get a better understanding. SOP stands for system.out.println. It's a short form. I'm using it just to demonstration, but you have to replace that with system.out.println when you do coding. So int count is equal to 1 while you see the while syntax, do while syntax, and the for syntax. Branching statements. So we take an example here. Here int count is equal to 1 while true. So when I say while true, it is going to execute all the time. It's going to be an infinite loop because it is never going to be false. If you have a condition count less than 5 or something like that, then it is having a tendency to become false at one point of time. Here it is not going to become false at all because it is while true. While true means it's going to be the block of code is going to execute infinitely. So while true, we are printing system.out.println count. That means we are going to print 1 here in this case. And once 1 is printed, we are making the count as 2 here. Count plus plus will become count as 2, make count as 2. And now we are checking 2 greater than 5. Is it true? No. Since it is not true, 2 is less than 5, we are going to do while loop again. And in while, there is no condition, it is always true. So it is going to execute again the block of code. So 2 will be printed with the system.out.println. And then count will be incremented to 3, and once it gets incremented to 3, you are going to check again 3 greater than 5, which is false. So again the while loop is executed, 3 will be printed, it becomes 4, 4 will be printed, it becomes 5, 5 greater than 5 is again false, so 5 will be printed, and count becomes 6, 6 greater than 5 is not false, it is true, 6 greater than 5 is true. Since it is true, it is going to execute the block of code. Okay, here I didn't put a curly braces and then put a block of code. Because it is not actually needed, but it is a good practice to put curly braces to represent it. In this case, I have not given, just for demonstration purpose. If you have just one statement, there is no need of giving a block of. You don't need to give a curly braces. If you have more than one statements, you need to give a curly braces. But if you have just one statement, it is optional. You can or you don't need to give. So in this case, I have not given. But still you can think like that is the block of code that gets executed when the count greater than 5 condition is true. So in this case 6 greater than 5 is true, and we are going to execute the block of code. In the block of code, what we are having is just a break statement. As you know, what is a break statement? Break will be coming out of the loop that is presented, wherever it is presented. So in this case, break is present it is in the while loop, so it is going to come out of the while loop. So whenever it meets 6, it is going to come out of the while loop. So this way, even though it is an infinite loop, when there is a condition like this, I'm going to come out of the loop. So it is going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when it becomes 6, the condition satisfies there, and it is going to break the loop and come out actually. So break statement will break the loop and come out of the current loop that is which contains that break. The next statement is on continue. So let's see what is continue is going to do. Similar program, we are having count is equal to 0, and we are checking count less than or equal to 5. Okay, so 0 less than or equal to 5, which makes count is equal to 1. It is going to, count plus plus will make count is equal to 1, and we are checking 1% 2 equal to 0. When you divide 1 by 2, you are going to get a remainder as 1, and that remainder is not equal to 0. So it is not going to execute the block of code. The block of code here is continue. So system.out.println 1 will be printed here. 1 will be printed here. And then now taking the 1 to the while again, 1 less than or equal to 5, which is true. So count will become 2. Now 2% 2 is equal to 0 is true. Since it is true, it is executing the continue statement. What happens when you execute the continue statement is it is going to continue with the next iteration. It is going to continue with the next iteration. That means it is not going to execute any code after following the continue statement. It is just going to skip all the code following the continue statement. In this case, it is going to skip the system.out.println count statement, and it is going to go to the while statement back. So when it goes to the while statement back, basically it is skipping the system.out.println here. It is not going to print it. It is just going to go to the while statement. So here the output will be 1 will be printed. After that 2 will not be printed because you are using a continue. When there is a even number, you are using a continue. So it is going to not execute the system.out.println, goes to the next loop, and in the next loop the count is 3, and it is not, the remainder is not equal to 0 when you divide by 2, so it is getting printed. That means the continue is not executed. For 4 the continue will be executed, so it is going to skip the system.out.println of count. So continue statement will skip the current iteration and continue with the next iteration. It will not come out of the loop as like the break statement. And we have one more branching statement which is return, that we will discuss in the next session when we discuss about the methods. So we will discuss how to do these programs in Eclipse in the next session. Thank you.